What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining me today. I hope you gain a ton of value out of this video. Today, I'm going to talk about slight differences in the mental approach between Paul Coll and Ali Farag. And everything we're going to see today is from the recent Egyptian Open semifinal where these guys had a rematch of the British Open. Now, I'm sharing this video as a little precursor in a sense to a little analysis I'm in the middle of completing of their entire semifinal match. And I'm going to show you guys some comparisons between the semifinal from the Egyptian Open as well as the final that they played not that long ago in the British Open. So stay tuned for that. And as always, if you like these videos, please like them, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and please leave a comment and let's engage in some productive, respectful discussion. Okay, so here is what we're going to do today. So what I want to do is discuss some mental approach concepts. You'll see what I mean in a minute. And I'm going to highlight the differences between Ali Farag's approach and Paul Coll's approach, purely based on what we got to see in the live stream from their recent semifinal. So let's begin with some of the mental training concepts I mentioned. An overall mental training program takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. And it is not a quick fix. Maybe I should correct that. It isn't a lot of work. It can feel like a lot of work because it's not easy. It's something that we're unfamiliar with. But like anything else in life, if you do it consistently, it becomes easier, and then it becomes second nature, and then you become unconsciously competent at it. And if you want to know what that means, send me a message in the comments. I've talked about it in some previous videos. There are several layers to the mental side of things, and I'm not going to talk about many of the other layers of a mental program, such as focus or concentration, self-confidence, motivation, aggression, anger, like all sorts of other areas that personality that an entire mental training program may or may not encompass, depending on what your approach is, what your needs are. And then obviously those are high-level buckets that one could work with. And then there's the other side of it where you have the tools and the tactics, like the affirmations and the visualization and maybe writing things out, journaling, and so on and so forth. I like to think about what I've laid out over here in points 2 and 3 as pre-match. So the things that you would be doing in the days and the weeks and kind of on a slightly more consistent basis, the things that you would be doing leading up to a big event or any event for that matter. And then you have the pre-match stuff, which is in the hour or so before you actually begin playing and you step on court. And there are many things that you could do throughout all of these. Like I said, in the pre-match, the things that you could be doing all along would be things like the visualization, could be video analysis to work on your tactics. And then you would visualize the way you want to play. You could visualize technique and play out in your mind how you want to start executing shots when you're learning new technique, for example. You could think about affirmations and meditate and get yourself into a space to create positivity or calmness or to increase your arousal. There are all these different things that you could do, and it all comes down to knowing yourself. That is the most important thing. And then in the very pre-match time, so that hour before the match, here's where you could also be repeating some of those affirmations that you would have practiced and conditioned in the weeks and the months leading up to big events. You could focus on last minute visualization. I remember I was reading a book and they were talking about Pele, the famous soccer player. And one of the things that Pele would do is that every time before he went on the soccer pitch, he would spend an hour or an hour and a half. He'd arrive an hour and a half earlier, and he would go through some warm-ups, and then he would just isolate himself, put a towel over his head, and he would just go through this mental process of his own to help him feel a certain way. So he would visualize himself as a kid playing and enjoying himself when he was a youth, because that would bring the fun out in his games. Then he would go through the highlights of some of his best plays that he's ever played before to give him the confidence that he wants to go and play. And he had a sequence about how he did this. He had a particular time that he allocated to all of this stuff. He would warm up appropriately before and after, and so on and so forth. So that would be a mental program in the pre-match mental program that Pele, for example, created for himself. And everyone is unique. So your mental program is going to look very different from the next person's mental program. And in a moment, you're going to see how different Paul Coll and Ali Farag's preparation was in the semifinal. And then the thing that I want to also mention is that we often hear the importance of a physical warm-up. Well, the mental warm-up is just as, if not even more important, at least at a higher level, where consistency and positivity and focus and concentration and all those things are the things that separate you from winning and losing. But I also want to emphasize the idea that the physical part of your warm-up is actually a mental training as well, because the physical warm-up provides you confidence. It provides a routine and repetition and familiarity. And if you come up with a physical warm-up that helps you feeling energized and ready and confident and good to go right before your match, that is mental warm-up and mental prep as well. Okay, so on that note, let me discuss one little sports psychology concept because it's important and I wanted to share it with you. So this is the idea of, there's this inverted U curve, so an upside down U. And the idea is that along the, and I've borrowed this little diagram from Google, so credit to whomever created it. On the vertical axis, you have performance. On the horizontal axis, you have stress or arousal. And what you'll notice is that if you are not aroused or stressed out at all, that doesn't lead to good performance. If you are overly stressed and overly aroused, that also does not lead to good performance. There is this optimal level of arousal or stress that leads to optimal performance. And here's the thing. Everyone, and if you were to rank it, let's say, along this x-axis from 0, right at the intercepts, to 10, right where the U-curve intercepts the x-axis, let's say 10 is maximal stress and arousal, 0 is absolutely no stress or arousal. Everyone has their own number that leads to their optimal performance. So for some people, they might want to be a 4, because for them, their curve might peak at 4 because they want less, slightly lower stress and lower arousal to feel relaxed and actually play their best. Whereas other people might actually want to be a little bit more aroused because it makes them feel a little bit bouncier and explosive, and they need a little bit of that harnessed, maybe even aggression, for instance, when they're playing. So they might want to be a 6 or a 7, and then for others, they might want to be right in the middle at a 5 because that leads to their optimal performance. So here's where getting to know yourself is critical, and it goes back to those 3 steps that I've shared in many other videos, where as you raise your awareness, you can make better or different choices, which could be better, arguably, and those different or better choices will lead to different and hopefully better results. So that's how all of this comes together. Now, once you know yourself and you understand where your optimal level of arousal is, then you have to start practicing effective strategies to shift your level of arousal to where it works best for you. So let's just say, I'll take myself as an example. I have a tendency to be overly stressed and aroused and nervous before tournaments. For me, I actually play my best when I'm a little bit more relaxed, because I loosen up a little bit. I don't think as much. My hands flow a little bit more. My attacking shots improve. But I have a tendency sometimes to be a little bit too under aroused, and I become too passive, and then my motivation's not there. I'm slouching a bit. I don't have that drive and that hunger. So for me, I need to get that right balance, and there are certain strategies that I use to help me find that right balance. And it has been a work in progress for many years, because truthfully, for most of my life, I wasn't aware of all this stuff. And now, as in the last several years, as I've become more aware of it and I've been practicing it more, it starts to actually help me play better on a more consistent basis. And I'm still experimenting with it, to be honest. And on different days, you might require different levels of arousal. That's something I've discovered for myself. So again, everyone's different. And the last thing that I want to talk about quickly is point number 3, is we have this tendency as a society in general to think that when we feel nervous, it's not a good thing. We're nervous. Oh no, crap! Like, I'm nervous. I'm not going to play well. I'm going to be too jittery. I can't concentrate. This is where we can shift our perspective and reframe what nervousness means. And in reality, if we can shift our perspective to nervousness, meaning I really care about this, I'm really interested, I'm really excited, and nervousness is actually very normal, and arguably from this curve, even necessary. Well, all of a sudden, the next time you feel nerves, you're not going to associate all these negative things with it, you're going to have all of these positive aspects associated with nervousness. So something for you guys to digest and mull over, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. So now let's get into some glimpses of Coll and Farag before their match. And check this out. So what is Ali Farag doing right now? Ali Farag is hitting the ball back and forth off of the wall, just getting his hands and eyes and getting his racket face and his contact and just priming his brain to be quick with the ball, because that drill, if you've ever done it, you can do it in the front corner of the court, so where the front wall and the side wall meet, and you can hit the side wall and the ball basically goes side wall, front wall, and back. That's one variation of it. The other variation is obviously doing it on a flat wall like Ali's doing and just hitting side to side, and it works on contact point, getting the racket prep back and forth quickly, and obviously you need to have ball control to be able to control it on the volley all the time. So Ali Farag is really working on something specific. Now look at, in a minute, we're going to see Coll come through the screen. And actually even before that, now look, Ali is doing explosive movements to really get himself fired up. And what's Coll doing? He's stepping and swinging. And then he's dancing because he's listening to music. So, and then he's practicing his swing again over there. And then a couple of explosive movements here by Coll. And then what does he do after that? Walking around and feeling that swing and thinking about swinging and pushing out of his stroke. So what differences do you see? To me, that was incredibly stark. The contrast was stark. Ali Farag is trying to lift himself up. Quick hands, quick movements, quick explosive lunges, making sure he's physically prepared, mentally lifting himself up from the looks of it. And maybe he's done other stuff before, I don't know. I'm basing it off of the little clip that we got to see right before they went on court. The thing that Coll is doing right before going on court, he's just in his own mind, and by swinging everything through, he's trying to feel the fluidity in his technique, and he's dancing, and he's trying to stay relaxed. Two very, very different mental approaches, and I thought that this was really cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. As always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend if you know someone who loves squash and would find value in this or would find this very interesting, and leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think about this, and tell me what your mental program maybe looks like, or if you've ever even thought about the mental side of things. All right, stay tuned for the breakdown analysis of the Coll Farag rematch from the Egyptian Open. And then soon I will get around to analyzing and breaking down the final between Ali Farag and Mohamed Shorbagy. The schedule is crazy these days, so I'm trying to fit in bits and pieces of this work as and when I can. So please remain patient, and I look forward to checking you guys out in the next video. Okay, take care, guys.